I'm Suzanne.
6 months have passed since that fateful day, and now, as I stand on the balcony of my restored family estate, the wind in my hair, sipping Earl Grey from a bone china cup that was once locked away by my mother, I can finally reflect on the long, fought battle for justice. The air is filled with the scent of fresh paint and sea salt, a far cry from the mildew and stale champagne that once permeated the house. The library, where so much drama unfolded, is now restored, and Grandpa's chessboard sits in the middle of the room, but with 2 black pawns missing. It's a symbolic reminder of the pawns my mother and brother were in this game of greed and deception. My phone buzzes with a collect call from the county jail. It's my mother again, or sometimes my brother. They want money, they want to explain, they want to blame me, but I don't engage. I simply block their numbers. I've learned to say no, and I've reclaimed my dignity. Let me take you back to that fateful day. It all started at my grandfather's funeral reception. I was like a ghost in my own home, spending hours refilling wine glasses and taking coats. When the last guest left, I mustered the courage to approach my mother, Diana, who was sitting at the head of the mahogany dining table with a real estate developer, Mr.
Thompson.
"Mom, could I have Grandpa's chess book? He taught me to play with it," I said softly. Diana looked up, annoyed that I dared to speak. She grabbed the leather-bound book from the shelf, and instead of giving it to me, she tossed it on a chair and sat on it, using it as a cushion for her negotiation. My brother, Ryan, laughed and poured his champagne on the book, as if it was just a joke. I felt like an outsider in my own family, more like furniture than a daughter. But when they went to the patio to smoke cigars, I retrieved the book and took it to the kitchen. That's when I discovered the original, notarized while hidden inside the hollowed-out pages. It proved that the deed my mother was using to sell the house was fake, and that I was the rightful owner of the estate and all its wealth. I knew that if I confronted them immediately, it would turn into a civil dispute, and my mother had the resources to drag me through probate court for years. So I decided to use my silence as a weapon. I let them believe they owned the house, knowing that their greed would eventually lead them to make a fatal mistake. 2 weeks later, the trap began to close. The sale of the house hit a snag because of old estate records, and the developer was getting cold feet. But Diana was desperate. She had gambling debts from Las Vegas and a lifestyle that required a large amount of money to maintain. "Ryan, I need cash now. The creditors are calling," she hissed, throwing a letter on the desk. Ryan, lounging on the sofa, suggested getting a hard money loan from a guy he knew. It was a predatory loan, but they were willing to take the risk. I overheard their conversation while polishing the windows in the sunroom. I knew this was the moment I had been waiting for. I finished my work, went to the laundry room, and called my lawyer, Mr. Harris. "Mr. Harris, it's happening. They're taking out a mortgage on the property. They're signing on Friday," I whispered. "Are you sure, Suzanne? Once they sign those papers, it's bank fraud, and they'll go to prison," he said seriously.
I know.
"Let them sign," I replied, looking at my cold reflection in the washing machine door. Friday morning arrived, and the house was filled with a heavy silence. I spent the previous 2 days making myself look busy, trying to be invisible. At 10 o'clock, the doorbell rang. It was Mr. Jenkins, a loan officer who made his living off the desperate, and a notary. They set up in the library, using the same desk where Grandpa used to teach me chess. I entered with a tray of coffee and biscuits, keeping my head down. Diana was too focused on Mr. Jenkins' laptop screen, her eyes full of greed. She signed the loan application, the deed of trust, and the affidavit of ownership without hesitation. The notary stamped the documents, and the money was wired to her account. I was on the phone with Mr. Harris, waiting for the right moment. I asked my mother, "Mom, so the money is in your account? You officially mortgaged the house." She sneered at me and threatened to have security throw me out. That's when I unmuted the line and said, "Did you get that, Mr. Harris?" Suddenly, the front door burst open. FBI agents, the district attorney, and Mr. Harris rushed in. Diana and Ryan were in shock. I pulled out the will and handed it to the lead agent, explaining that my mother had committed wire fraud and bank fraud. But just when I thought it was over, Ryan produced an emergency guardianship order, claiming that I had severe paranoid delusions and was unfit to accuse anyone. He thought he had outsmarted me. However, Mr. Harris was prepared. He presented an addendum to Grandpa's will, the competency clause. Ryan had used a fraudulent medical affidavit from Dr. Lewis, a discredited doctor, to obtain the court order. In contrast, I had a recent, legitimate psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Smith, the state's chief psychiatrist, proving my mental capacity. The agents realized that Ryan had committed perjury and obstruction of justice. They arrested him and Diana, and I finally felt the weight lift off my shoulders. Grandpa always said that in chess, the quiet pieces are often the ones setting the trap. He was right. I didn't have to flip the board. I just let my opponents make the wrong moves. And now, I'm turning this once prison-like estate into a sanctuary for women escaping financial abuse, a lasting legacy of my grandfather's wisdom and my victory over greed. Checkmate, Grandpa.